Tony Martignetti, nonprofit radio coverage of 18NTC, the Nonprofit Technology Conference. We're coming to you from New Orleans at the Convention Center. All our NTC interviews are sponsored by Network for Good, easy-to-use donor management and fundraising software for nonprofits. This conversation is with Jessica Meister, Matt Dragon, and Justin Greeves. Jessica is the Web User Experience Specialist at Oral Health America. Matt is Director of Engineering at Charity Navigator, and Justin Greeves is Senior Vice President of Research at Porter Novelli. Jessica, Matt, Justin, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Welcome to Nonprofit Radio.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Your workshop topic is I'm not the dinosaur, you're the dinosaur, how your website should keep pace with America's aging population. Okay, let's start down in the end there, Justin, who thinks I look like John McEnroe. He spilled before.
A little bit. A happy John McEnroe.
But I remind you of John McEnroe, at least. A happy John, yeah, right. Not the tennis racket slamming John McEnroe.
Not yet.
I haven't gotten there yet. Yeah. Don't give me cause. Okay, what's the issue here, Justin? Are we talking about websites that are built specifically for a senior population, like 65 and over, or accessibility of all websites for the elder population?
Yeah. I think
we're
taking
one or the other, or both?
We're taking a step back from that and looking at everybody and really looking at how, in my part of the presentation, how people are accessing information generally in society, and looking at that. Websites are a part of that, news is a part of that, social media is a part of that, radio shows are a part of that, right? So seeing how those different audiences by age or by other characteristics are doing things online or getting information. So we really took a broad view of that to understand that. And there are a couple of interesting trends that we found in our research. So at Porter Novelli, we do an ongoing program called Styles, which is a broad view of Americans' lifestyle.
Okay, we'll get into the research.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Remind me if I don't get to it. If I don't ask you about the research, please. Okay. Matt, what's your sense of this? How do you want to open up the topic?
Sure. So at Charity Navigator, our biggest user percentage is 65 and over. And if you lump in 55 and over, it's really a majority of our users. We're into the 90s?
Are we in 90% of users?
Not 90%. Probably around 80% or 75%. Okay. So we have a lot of those users. As I covered in the presentation, over 75% of our donors to us are 75 or are 55 and over. So that's something that we're constantly considering in our website design, communicating with our users and our donors.
Okay. Jessica, you're our user experience specialist.
I am.
How do you want to open this topic for the elder population?
So my belief is that technology should be for everybody, and it shouldn't be limited to just young people. And that's on all of us to create technology and websites and designs that are usable by every single person. I think it's a negative stereotype that older adults, seniors above the age of 65, don't use technology, and it's absolutely not true. Both Justin and I have found plenty of research that is completely to the contrary.
Okay, thank you for that. All right. Not that I'm 65 or over, but I'm approaching now. But I'm not even in the 50. No, I am in the 55 over. Yeah, I am in that one. Okay, I did remember what I wanted to talk to you about, the research. So I do want to start with, in terms of how the older population is using data differently, is using technology differently. Yeah, please, Justin.
Yeah, and I think to Jessica's point, it's a myth and it's a long-held belief that older people are behind in technology and don't use things. But what we found in our styles research that I mentioned before is half of people in the silent generation, so that's age 72 and above, have a smartphone, mobile device that they're using. And
half 72 and over.
Half people 72.
Mm-hmm.
And in boomers, which you're a boomer. You're a boomer.
I'm a young boomer.
You're a young boomer. Yeah, almost a Gen Xer. 75% of boomers have smartphones, and that's the primary way that they're accessing all sorts of things. News, your radio show, information about websites, giving donations online. So you got to think about the population, which the vast majority of givers, of high givers, are also older people. You're not going to be as effective if you're just still mailing them stuff, right? They need to interact and access just the way we all do, and they want to do it on a mobile device mostly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you want to add more to the research summary?
That's a pretty fair summary. So Justin's work has been primarily in quantitative data and looking at it from like a sky level view, getting these good statistics on what usage rate looks like. My work has been more qualitative when you actually sit down and have a senior interact with either a website or a tool or technology. You ask them to use it, completing a particular task. And yeah, the vast majority of them are wanting to do it on mobile as well. And especially from a nonprofit perspective, it's important to keep in mind that sometimes the only access someone may have to the internet is in fact on a mobile device. They may not have the means or access to like a desktop computer. And so that was something that we found in our research when we redesigned toothwisdom.org, which is a website designed to provide education and access to older adults to dental clinics, affordable ones in their area. When we did this study, we found that they really wanted to be able to search and that they may be doing this from a mobile device.
Yeah, okay. And in the middle, Matt, at Charity Navigator, what was your part in the presentation?
So we have this predominantly older user base, but we're also seeing a lot of growth in the 24 to 35-year-old user community that we're seeing. So we're struggling to make changes to the site that appeal to a younger generation, but not turn off or lose our older users in the process. So we have a lot of sort of feedback and help type questions that we get from older users where they just aren't used to interacting with websites like younger generations are. And so we're always trying to sort of factor that in as we make changes to the site or consider how we present information on the site.
There's another layer to this too, which is the federally funded organizations.
Yes.
They by law they
required
they have to have
to
accessible.
abide by. It's called Section 508, and it was voted on and passed through Congress last year, January 2017, and it just went into effect January 18.
Okay.
And this is any organization that receives any federal funding whatsoever, regardless of if it's 100% or if it's 2%. They receive any federal dollars whatsoever, they are obliged to adhere to accessibility guidelines. They're primarily based on the WCAG, which is the World Wide Web Consortium's content and accessibility guidelines.
Okay, thank you for fleshing that out, because we have jargon jail on Tony Mark
Yes,
Nonprofit Radio.
yes, I
And
apologize.
You came very close. You just walked in front of the prison.
No, yes,
But,
I wanted to put it out there because it's an important resource. So it's WCAG, and it's findable online.
WCAG?
Yes.
Okay. So all right. So any federal money you're getting, grants, fee for service, or whatever it might be.
Anything at all. And
Okay.
critically, this law applies to not just your public-facing website, but anything that you use internally as well. So even if it's just an internal tool that only the other staff members see.
Only your millennial staff is using?
Correct. Yes.
That's pretty burdensome.
Yeah, so it's pretty massive, but this is especially critical to seniors and older adults because 40% of people above the age of 65 have some sort of disability, compared to 20% of the general population.
Yeah,
and so if you're designing for seniors, you're designing with accessibility in mind.
Okay. Let's see, where should we go? Testing. Oh, so you do the individual testing.
Yes.
So your role, Justin, is more the quantitative research, but bigger picture research.
Yeah. And my role in the presentation was sort of the higher level trends. And another thing that we all talked about and is all near and dear to us is the impact of social media on things. You know, we hear a lot about Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and other things nowadays. And so again, there's another myth that, seniors aren't on technology and they're definitely not on social media, which is absolutely false. Also, the majority of seniors are on some form of social media, most likely Facebook. And so if you think about that, you need to think about how to meet them where they are. Jessica mentioned that in our engagement earlier today. And that's going to be mostly on Facebook. You know, if you're trying to get people and get them to interact, they're going to be in a social channel. They're going to be in Facebook. They're probably not going to be on Twitter very often. There's another myth that Twitter's everywhere. Only 13% of Americans use Twitter on a regular basis. And of course, we all know one of them, right? He's the Twitter-in-chief. So
Only 13% use it on a regular basis?
13% of Americans use Twitter. So if you have an older population, you probably shouldn't spend too much time on your Twitter strategy, which is something we worry about in PR all the time. You should think about Facebook and think about other channels and think about websites and email, because that's where you're going to find them.
I like coming back to you, not because you thought I looked like John McEnroe, but so it provides the broader context.
Yeah, that was my role there.
Okay, and then Jessica, you've done the individual user studies.
Yes.
Sitting with seniors watching them.
Yes.
Or do we have devices that watch their eyes as they navigate websites? Do we have that?
Screen reading studies are available from larger group.
It's called screen reading. So that technology exists? You can...
Yeah, eye tracking studies.
Eye
tracking studies, yes.
It's a little bit of witchcraft, though.
Okay.
Yeah, and those can develop heat maps that will indicate where someone looks on a site. But generally speaking, in terms of how seniors look at a website, it's not very different from how most of us do. Most of us like to scan websites. We don't like to read them. The average amount of time you spend on a website on a single web page is between 30 seconds and 60 seconds. So it's not a whole lot of time. People just try to get what they can and they leave. And that's true for seniors as well.
They're there for a purpose.
Yes.
We know that they don't come in through the homepage. They came from somewhere else. They were looking they're looking for something specific. They linked to you. They found it and they leave.
Yes. Seniors,
now you might try to engage them somehow. That gets into marketing and the website design. But let's leave that aside. They came for something specific and they're leaving after they get it.
Correct. And it's interesting because as web has evolved over time, the homepage has become less and less important because, as you said, they're coming in from Google and they're landing on the pages that they're looking for. And so, for example,
obsession over homepages is overrated.
For example, on our website, toothwisdom.org, only 11% of our users come in through the homepage. Yeah. And so it's interesting when you're doing time evaluation. Oh, how much time should we think about the homepage? Maybe 11% of your time.
Now, Matt, I'm guessing, does that vary for you? Is a homepage more important for Charity Navigator?
It's actually less. So 10% of our
Don't
total...
go by intuition. That's why it's a data-driven discussion.
10% of our total web page views are of the homepage. So not even landing on it, just visiting it at any point during your visit.
Okay.
So it's a similar thing. And I think really we mentioned 508, like 508 doesn't speak at all to how people move through your site, how they locate information on your site. It's about the visibility, the readability, the color contrast. So it's still very important to talk to your users, do the kind of studies that Jessica did, because you're not going to know. You can be 100% 508 compliant and have zero users able to do what they're trying to do when they come to your site.
That's absolutely true. There's a difference between accessibility compliance and accessibility in practice.
Yeah, the law sets a minimum standard,
right?
It's not going as far as you're describing. Now, so Matt, you're straddling an interesting position because you said the elder population is most of your users, but the younger population is growing.
Correct.
Right? So you're constantly straddling. How do you rationalize that?
So part of it is we adjust it through our channels. So our website, our Facebook tend to have an older audience. Our Twitter followers, as Justin noted, tend to be younger. So we can sort of target content that way. Another big part of what we have to look at is just we sort of can never make a really drastic change to something on our website, because that will throw our senior audience, even though a younger audience is almost surprised when I go to a website and nothing's changed since the last time I'm there. That's sort of the anomaly. But with supporting older users, we've made what we thought were very simple changes to our search results page, and it throws people off, and they don't understand that it's not the final destination. It's just you have to click through to get to the data, and people ask us, where did all the data go? Why'd you take away all this information? When it's just they're looking at a search result, not at the page they used to be looking at.
So let me go to Justin. This has implications around it's the way seniors are using the technology. So you've demystified, or not demystified, debunked these myths that, as Jessica did too, that seniors are not using technology, they're not engaged with it, but how they're using it, and their understanding of it is different. I mean, it's not as sophisticated as someone who grew up with it and has more exposure.
Yeah, I think it's probably not as sophisticated, but they bring their kind of wisdom and life experience to it. So another thing is, what do you really believe when you see things on the internet? And we did this series of things based on the whole fake news and other stuff to look at how many people actually get news from Facebook, believe the news, and what do they do if someone posts something that they don't like. So what we found is only about 1 in 10 people now believe what they see in social media as news.
Good.
Only about a third of those people click through to actually look at the original content,
so
the
we're
original
talking about like
site.
3%.
Yeah, it's a very small
that.
number.
Yeah.
And then, but the other interesting thing is seniors are the less likely to have this one bad behavior, which is defriend or defollow people who have a different opinion than them. The younger generations are much more likely to unfriend or unfollow someone. Let's say, Tony, you have a different opinion than I do about politics or some social thing. Seniors are going to ignore it. Younger people are going to basically opt out of you. And what that means, and if you think about the implication, is we all are just in our own personal echo chamber, right? We hear what we want to hear. We're only talking to people who have the same opinion. And I think that's a very dangerous viewpoint. You know, America's based on diversity and the melting pot.
Yeah,
and if you're not hearing people from other cultures or beliefs or angles, whether you think they're right or not, you should at least listen. Seniors do that. Younger people do not.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so Matt, I'm interested in what was the little change you made to the search page that through seniors that you thought was not a big deal?
So we surfaced more information onto the search result and gave you more functionality via the search result where you didn't have to click.
The result, yeah.
So that the fact that all that functionality and information was showing up on the search page, people didn't understand anymore that they had to click in to a charity's page to see that more in-depth information.
See more in-depth. They thought you had concatenated all the information down to just what they're seeing on this screen.
Right.
The one after I click search.
Exactly.
Okay. Concatenated, is that the right use of the word?
Mm-hmm.
Shortened.
Yeah,
Okay.
cut off.
Keep it simple. All right. Reduced. All right. Concatenated. Some best practices? You from your seminar, from the workshop description, you promised some best practices for helping the over 65 population?
Sure.
Who
yeah,
so
they're posted on the hashtag from our session, which is 18 NTC Dinosaur.
Okay, very good.
So we have them posted there, and you should also be able to flip through materials and find access to those slides. So some of the overarching principles, the first one, which is very important, is be big, be bold, and be obvious. And so this has to do with create things in large text, high contrast.
Is it good enough for text to have a text enlarging button?
It's not.
It is not.
It's a good thing to add. It's a nice feature, but you also have to expect quite a lot of people won't see that available.
Okay.
And so font
what if
size.
you make it big? But I mean, what if you make the text enlarger big? Is that still not adequate? Is it not?
So that goes to the heat map. A lot of people just will ignore that part of the screen usually.
Oh, okay.
And it's because they don't visually identify it as the thing they're looking for, like you said.
Right. Okay.
But making text minimum of a...
See how she educates the host? She brings me along. I'm very gracious. I'm grateful for that.
Okay. Minimum size, I think, is recommended at 17-point font for a website.
Okay. What's do we know what the average is? Do we know what typical website is?
A lot of people have it smaller than that because standard book or print size is 12-point. And so a lot of people rely on that print standard for web.
Like 50% larger.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Yes.
Almost 50% larger than standard book print. Okay. Okay. Big, bold, and what was it?
Obvious.
Obvious.
And so Matt and I talked about this. Seniors sometimes having a difficult knowing which items are interactable. And so we recommend, for example,
so they're not recognizing the highlighted
like
text?
They don't know that like a button is a button.
Okay.
And so you might need literal signifiers to make it look like it's a three-dimensional button with a shadow that you would push in real life. that's a literal signifier, but it gives a visual indication that something's interactable. And I think
literal signifier. That's interesting. Okay. So in a previous conversation today, I was talking with a woman named Sheila Warren about Bitcoin and blockchain, and she was talking about the wallet in blockchain. Is that a what was the phrase?
Literal signifier.
Is that a literal signifier?
I would say so. I would say so.
Where we refer to something that's traditional for something that's new, because blockchain is just people just discovering what it even means.
Or how people think of a floppy disk as the save icon.
A literal signifier. Right. A literal signifier. Yeah. Okay. A literal signifier. I always wondered what those were. Like when you see a little bank for your savings or something like that. Okay. A literal signifier. Thank you for that. Okay.
Sure. And
that was a host digression. I'm sorry. I'm going to write that phrase down. Okay. And having nothing to do with this conversation, but or very little to do with it. Okay.
I just know that Matt had talked about how some of the users on their site had also struggled with things that weren't necessarily obviously buttons, but were clickable.
Okay. You got some best practices for dealing with the 65 over?
Yeah. So one of the things is just to make a literal call out. So one of the things we did to help with our search results problem was making sure that there was words that said more details or more info. Something that even though it's a link and it's blue and it looks just like every other charity name link that's in the search results, the fact that it was more of a call to action and clearly something that if you're saying, oh, I wonder where the details went, you could click on that thing and it would take you to the following page. So just things that sort of are very clear next steps or calls to action. The other thing that we've done is pages that might be a dead end, like if you click into a history of donation and you're looking at an individual donation you made and you want to get back to the list. For a lot of younger users, they'll know they just have to hit the back button. But we'll actually put a button that says, return to my donations, so that it's very clear that there's always a way out from whatever page you're on, and sort of similar to sort of having breadcrumbs sort of at the top of a page that would list sort of the hierarchy within the site of the page that you're currently at. So anything that sort of keeps people when they might think, oh, now I'm stuck, I don't know where to go next, giving them sort of an escape valve or an obvious thing to click on as the next step.
What are the breadcrumbs? What are breadcrumbs on pages?
So breadcrumbs would be like if you're at the top of the Charity Navigator page and you click into a category and then a cause, we'll show you the category you clicked on as we list the causes within that category.
Oh, okay.
It's a trail back home.
Apple does that, or at least I think they pioneered it.
Right. So a lot of websites will have that sort of at the top of a page.
Where you are in the nest,
right?
Or in the nesting. Okay. Justin, I don't want to leave you out of the best practices conversation, but that's not your part of the
no.
You got some practices?
I definitely have a best practice.
Okay, please.
And all of us share this theory, which is do more research. I mean, I think that the number one stumbling block that people have, and Matt gave great examples, and Jessica, you have to know your audience and do research to understand how they're using your product or your website or whatever, and sit down and talk with them. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be a long process. It can be a small focus group of grannies at home, or it could be your friends and family, but do research and have a disciplined way. One cautionary note that I'll put out, I don't want to get in the acronym jail, but be cautious.
Jargon jail. Don't ruin my literal signifier.
Jargon jail.
Jargon jail.
The illiteracy of that, or the
alliteration,
not illiteracy. But the idea is don't collect more data than you need, because the GDPR is coming, General Data Protection Requirements from Europe. And so everyone in the United States, if they deal with European counterparts, is going to be required to give people who are citizens of Europe and the UK the ability to act like they never visited your site, or they can be forgotten. And it's very hard. The fines are extremely expensive. They're meant to be business shutting fines. And so don't collect any personally identifiable information you don't absolutely need, and have a way for people to opt out of that, let them know what you have, and have a way to get rid of it, because that's the requirement, and it starts at the end of May.
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of reading about that. We covered it on Nonprofit Radio a couple of months ago. Yeah,
it's a tough one. But again, my final answer is, do research. It can be informal, it can be formal, but get to know your users and have a feedback channel, because we live in a dynamic world and people expect change.
Yeah, okay. Although, Matt, when people see change, they don't always know how to react to it. and sometimes they get panicky.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that having a group to test that with, can help you sort of avoid that stumbling block. So even just being able to put it in front of a small group of people who are in a representative portion of your audience, putting in front of my developers is not a way to know if our older audience is going to find a problem.
Do you have some seniors come out to New Jersey? You're in a small town in New Jersey.
We are.
Edgewater? No, what is it? Not Edgewater.
Glen Rock.
So
it's something we want to do more of. We haven't done it. Jessica's been able to really incorporate it into her process much more than we have.
Yeah, and we do it all the time. And the thing we always say is, get out of your own conference room, talk to real people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very good advice for a lot of. I mean, it also
right?
relates back to what you were talking about. Not narrowing your circle of influence that you allow in. But let's get out a little. Yeah, that's good for life. Okay, we just have like a minute or so left. Who wants to put the finishing touches on this subject? A little motivation. Jessica, I'm going to give it to you.
Okay.
Because I started down that end with Justin. So let's go.
All right. So I think, oh my gosh, now I'm on the spot.
If you were talking to a friend, who said, you've been doing this work, why is this so important?
I think it's very important, especially in the nonprofit community, that we don't just talk the talk, but we walk the walk.
Yeah,
and so
right.
if we say we are trying to serve a specific population, it's very important that we do the work to actually do that. And I believe that building tools and resources and technology for seniors is a way that we can live our mission and serve that population.
That's it. Brava.
Okay.
There you go. She's Jessica Meister, Web and UX Specialist at Oral Health America. And Matt, she's not also Matt Dragon, but seated next to her is Matt Dragon, and he's the Director of Engineering at Charity Navigator. And Justin Greeves, Senior Vice President of Research, Porter Novelli. Jessica, Matt, and Justin, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Tony.
Tony.
Real pleasure. Thank you. This interview has been sponsored by Network for Good, easy-to-use donor management and fundraising software for nonprofits. And this is Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio coverage of 18NTC, and I thank you for being with us.